Hello and welcome to Face Off here on France 24. In a stunning reversal, the Socialist Party has announced that it would designate its candidate for the 2017 presidential election through a primary contest. This means that for the first time ever, a sitting president might submit himself to a primary election. So is the surprise move by François Hollande a political masterstroke, or is it simply a crazy gamble? With me to discuss the issue, Philippe Terrell from Radio France Internationale and Stéphane de Vries, the Paris correspondent for the Dutch TV station RTL4. So last weekend, the leadership of the Socialist Party met and announced out of the blue that a primary of the so-called governing left would be held in January. After dithering for months and arguing that an incumbent should not go through such a cumbersome process while running the country, the ruling party changed course radically.
A first in France's modern political history. On Saturday, the country's ruling Socialist Party agreed to hold a primary vote to decide who will be the left's candidate going into next year's presidential elections. It means that for the first time, a sitting president will have to stand in a primary before running for a second term. The vote itself will take place in January next year. For some socialist lawmakers, it had become unavoidable.
Everyone has to understand that if we want to avoid seeing the fragmentation of the Socialist Party, we have to hold this primary.
François Hollande is one of the most unpopular French presidents in modern times. Latest opinion polls give him an approval rating of just 14%. Hollande's low ratings have led to accusations that the French leader wouldn't win a second term. Holding a primary could work in his favour by boosting his legitimacy amongst the Socialist Party base. But it could also backfire if he gets beaten by another candidate.
Personally, I don't think he'll win. I don't want him to. The gap between himself and the Socialist Party base, those who put him into power, is so great that more people are rejecting him than supporting him.
With just 10 months to go until next year's presidential ballot, Hollande is set to declare whether or not he'll run for a second term towards the end of the year. Conveniently, around the same time, other candidates for the Socialist primary are meant to throw their hats in the ring.
Stéphane de Vries, no one predicted that this would happen. The primary, there have been calls for such a primary for months, but it seemed that the president was against it and was trying to win time in order to prevent it. And then suddenly, he apparently will run in a...
Yeah, I don't know what happened exactly in the head of, in the mind of François Hollande last weekend, but it's quite astonishing indeed that he agrees to organize a primary because he is so unpopular. So there's even a chance that he would not even win his own primary election. It's not sure whether he will participate. He will really wait till the very last moment to announce his candidacy. But it's strange and it's a real gamble, I think.
Is it really a gamble, or is it, yet again, François Hollande, who has been for years at the helm of the Socialist Party, another evidence that he's a master tactician, that he's taking everyone by surprise, saying, okay, I'm unpopular, you're saying I should run through this primary that the Socialists used to designate him in 2011. Okay, I'll do it.
Okay, two things. The first one is that François Hollande definitely wants to run as president again.
There's no doubt in your mind.
There's no doubt in my mind that he wants to do that. He's itching to run again. He knows that he's unpopular. So second thing is, how can he put himself in a favourable position to be the candidate that everyone will choose? And one of the ways that he thinks he can do that is to run in a primary race. Now, the underlying fact here is that if he were popular, if François Hollande was the natural candidate, if you like, on the left. Everyone supported him. He had good ratings in the opinion polls. There would be no need for a primary election like this. But because François Hollande is vastly unpopular in France, and he knows himself that he has virtually no chance of winning the election next year, he's got to create a situation which will make him, once again, the natural candidate and wipe out all the opposition, both on the far left and within his own party. And one of the ways that he thinks he can do it is running in this primary election, which is now slated to take place in January.
Right. There's a slight problem, a big problem, one should say, is that this primary will only include essentially the socialist party, but other candidates who've already declared, like the far-left leader Jean-Luc Mélenchon, he says he won't participate in such a primary, and the Green Party, the candidate has not been appointed, but they also said they would not participate. So this is really about the Socialist Party more than uniting the whole left.
Absolutely, and ironically, they're calling it themselves La Belle Alliance, the beautiful alliance. Maybe it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, but there's actually no alliance. It's basically the Socialist Party, as you say, with just small, minor satellites around this party. But the main contender on the left is now Jean-Luc Mélenchon. He's doing very well in the polls. Of course, it's very early for the polls, but it gives an indication about the popularity of this Jean-Luc Mélenchon. He was a former socialist, member of the Socialist Party, and is now the leader of some kind of, radical extreme left. And in some polls, he's even doing better than François Hollande. So he's the real threat on the left. I think this primary, if Hollande wins, could show that Hollande is still able to reunite the party, and that the Socialist Party still have a reason to exist. But if he loses, well, then it will be a completely different story, and maybe the party will not survive this primary.
Right. We can watch some poll figures that were taken before this surprise announcement, but just to give you an idea of where François Hollande stands on the left, among leftist sympathizers, when you ask them who is the best candidate, François Hollande only arrives in fifth position, Jean-Luc Mélenchon, the far left leader, being well ahead of him, and fellow socialists, Manuel Valls, the prime minister, and Emmanuel Macron, the economy minister, are also ahead of François Hollande. However, the fact that a sitting president is considering to run in a primary has never been seen before. You might argue that primaries are a fairly new phenomenon, but clearly this means that he is really weak.
He is really weak. He's got, I think, something like 85% or nearly 90% of French people who don't think he's been a very good president. Within his own party, he is contested as someone who hasn't done what he promised to do during his election campaign in 2012. So he's in a very weak state. But I think it's quite interesting that this election for the primary is going to take place in January. That means it will take place after the primary for the right-wing opposition. And that means there will be a right-wing candidate chosen to fight against François Hollande. It could be Alain Juppé, who's a former prime minister. It could be Nicolas Sarkozy, the former president. We don't know yet who's going to win that primary. So François Hollande knows that in January, when this primary takes place, the person who is going to win it is going to be opposite a right-wing candidate. So anyone who contests that candidate, who gets through the primary and gets elected as the candidate for the Socialist Party, will therefore be seen as undermining the campaign of the Socialist Party in favour maybe of the far left or even the right. So François Hollande knows that if he can win this primary election, and that he will be seen as the natural candidate for the left because he's the outgoing president, and he will be the only candidate who can bring together all the different factions within the Socialist Party, even the backbench rebels, then he knows that by January, because January is not really a very good month for politicians usually in France, by January he will be in a stronger position to fight against the right-wing candidate, and that is where he will find his strength.
Yeah, that might be wishful thinking, because you just mentioned those MPs from the Socialist Party who've been against François Hollande more and more vocally, just now against this labor reform bill that's having a hard time in Parliament and in the streets of France. There might be a candidate who could emerge from this side of the Socialist Party to beat François Hollande. Absolutely. Maybe François Hollande is hoping that there will be multiple candidacy, that they will annihilate each other, but there's a possibility that someone might emerge.
Absolutely, and I think the biggest contender is probably Emmanuel Macron, now the current Minister of Economy. He's very popular, not only
but he's not on the left of the party.
Well, no, he's not on the left of the party, but the people who sympathize with the Socialist Party really do like him. And he's also pretty liked on the right, well, the center-right. So he could maybe win the primary if he is a candidate. He has not pronounced himself. Imagine Hollande loses his primary elections in January, then he will be a lame duck for five months, because it's another 5 months until the presidential election, and he will be completely paralyzed, and so will be the country. So I think it's a very, very dangerous decision.
Okay, I don't think Emmanuel Macron's going to be a candidate because he's not a member of the Socialist Party, and he's not an elected official.
One.
He could become one. But he said all the way down the line, if François Hollande's going to be a candidate, I won't be one.
Right.
Well, it depends whether he's lying or not.
Right.
I think there could be a risk from another former member of the Socialist Party, who is Arnaud Montebourg, who would like to be a candidate and has said that he will be one if François Hollande is not running. I think this decision to have the primaries is a way by François Hollande trying to snuff out Arnaud Montebourg's candidacy. I don't think Nicolas Hulot is going to be a candidate, so he's out as far as being part of the ecologists and the Greens is concerned. And I think there could be some competition from a few other candidates, but no one particularly seriously. And the aim of this is to get rid of all the possible infighting within the Socialist Party. Because as I said, by January, with the other candidate from the right opposite François Hollande, the person who wins, all those within the party who are going to start fighting against François Hollande then will be seen as being against the party. What is interesting in this is that if you look forward to the presidential election next year in May, what everybody seems to think is going to happen is that Marine Le Pen from the far right will make it through to the second round and will probably come first in the first round of voting. So the person who wins this primary, either on the right or on the left, one of those two candidates will be the next president of France. So it's almost really, we're going to find out who the next president is quite a way ahead of the presidential election. Will it be François Hollande? Will it be Nicolas Sarkozy? Will it be Alain Juppé? Will it be another person on the left? We don't know yet. So this is a way, I think, of trying to put François Hollande in a stronger position a bit ahead of the presidential election. But as you said before, it's a gamble.
Okay, we'll have to leave it there. We'll be following this uncharted territory that the Socialists have just decided on. And the primary season will indeed be interesting. Thank you very much for watching this edition of Face Off. We'll see you next week here on France 24.